Today's guest is Celina Dugulin. Celina is a technical projects manager at Murphy & Son. She finished her joint PhD in Brewing Science and Engineering Technology from the University of Nottingham and KU in 2021. And she found her love for the brewing industry in 2013 in Canada, where she first worked for Lallemand at their R&D department in Montreal. Upon returning to Austria, she continued to work for Lallemand at their production site in Vienna, doing quality control of their bakers and wine yeast. After finishing her PhD, she got the chance to join the Beverzol team in Lebry, where she worked as a quality technician, reviewed current fermentation practices, and got the chance to gain knowledge about a wide range of fruit and malt ferments, and even exciting new categories such as hard seltzers. Celina has a general certificate in cider making from the IBD and has been an active member of the IBD. So Celina, welcome and thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Tom, for the invitation and for the lovely introduction. It's interesting hearing about your own life.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And the best thing about doing these podcasts is always getting to meet all sorts of different people from the industry. I'm not from the industry. I've been at the IBD for just over a year now, and it's great that it's part of my, each time I have a conversation, it's interesting and it kind of builds up my brewing education. So thank you very much for your time today. So but about you though, so I've given a bit of a flavour of your career today. How's the IBD been a part of that journey?
Yeah, I've already been, as you said, I've already worked in the brewing industry starting in Canada, which is around 11 years ago. But the IBD mainly became part of my journey when I moved to the UK, when I moved to Nottingham. So it was the IBD was known everywhere, and people asked, oh, do you have a certificate, do you have the diploma? So but for me personally, it was the Journal of the Institute of Brewing. So because that formed part of all the research that I've done, the education that I went through during my time as a PhD student, my papers that I've written, and the journal, the thesis as well that I've written. So and to now, until now, I still read the journal. So that's my main start. But I've since then attended multiple events and just all the networking events and presentations that have been offered by the IBD.
Oh, that's perfect. And you are by trade a scientist, and a scientist working within the brewing industry. Talk to me about that as a career choice. Why did you go down that pathway, and what is it specifically about the science of brewing that fires you up and has led to your career?
It was just everything a little bit by accident, I think. It all started when I was doing my undergraduate in Vienna in nutritional sciences, actually. And I think towards the end of my undergraduate, I just realized it's not the career that I want to stay in. So I was looking for an internship between my semesters, and I happened to get an offer from Lallemand, and then even getting an offer in Montreal, working with brewing yeast and the science behind it. And it's just learned that there's so much behind the brewing process. So I just kind of stick to it. That was my moment. I was oh, this is what I want to do when I'm grown up. And since then I've stayed in this industry, and just by my career choices and the jobs that I went for, and then my PhD project, it was just wanting to stay in this industry.
And are there lots of scientists working in places like Murphy & Son? And how do you interact with what's the kind of project look like? Obviously, don't go into any confidential details, but what is the kind of work that you do in support of the industry?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, the team at Murphy & Son is coming from all different backgrounds. I mean, all of us, we have practical brewing experience or distilling experience, but some come more from a science background, some come more from the practical brewers roles. So there's a lot of knowledge, I would say, in the company. So we kind of support each other, kind of filling each other's gaps in that sense. And my role specifically is helping to initialize projects and also manage them for new product developments. That can be anything from liquor treatments to finings. So my day-to-day work would be anything. It could like on a Monday, I focus on our findings range. So I would do different kinds of trials, also looking into our formulations, improving the formulations, or even looking into what's the new trends on the market. How could we support with processing aids, or just generally with the whole looking into the processes, how we can support to improving the whole
And then
process.
in terms of the IBD, you've talked about the journal and how that was really important during your student days. Do you still use the journal as a kind of reference document now for the work that you're doing? And how can the IBD kind of support scientists like yourself who are in turn part of and supporting the industry? What could the IBD do to be to kind of maintain that?
Yeah, definitely. I use the Journal of the Institute like pretty much like every week, because like reading the news article, but also referring to like all the references. I think what was quite a good thing is that it's more accessible now, that when you're part of the IBD, you can actually access all the papers, I think dating back like decades. So I think this is brilliant, because that's a lot, like a big problem with some of the very, very big journals like Nature. It is so expensive, and you can't have like a membership to all different like all of these journals. And once you leave the university, you kind of lose access to these journals. And I think also for brewers, it's really important. They will not like start like a memberships as multiple different journals. So obviously being part of the IBD and having like this open access, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I think that access to that incredible scientific content is a really important kind of benefit that our members get. And how do you as a kind of how do you engage and operate with the sections? Are you part of the Midlands section?
Yeah.
And what do you get from the sections? They're a great bunch. I love going up to the Midlands, but what are the kind of key benefits of engaging with the IBD sections for you?
Yeah, I'm part of the Midlands section, but I've also attended like some events of the Northern section. I really enjoy like just that, like the dinners, for example, you're getting together. By now you're not just meeting like people in the brewing industry, you're meeting friends as well. So that's one of the brilliant things. I think with the events, they could do with maybe a bit more modernization, I would say, especially the dinners, having a bit more like less sit down meal, more like, because everyone enjoys more the getting together and sharing a beer and a chat. So I think they could like do with a little bit less sitting down, but I think this is one of thing that I benefit the most.
I mean, my favorite part of the dinners is always giving out the certificates for the people who've passed their exams. It's just such a great moment for those people, and you can just see how much work they put into it and how happy they are to be successful. And I always like the personal tributes. So if somebody's become a fellow or somebody's made a real contribution, I love that kind of bit. And
definitely. Especially like I've done the general certificate in cider making, and that's already quite a lot of like content to go through. So like all the people that do the diploma, like, whoa, it's a lot of work, a lot of effort that went into that.
And so how would you describe the IBD in its essence? When the IBD is at its best, what do you think the IBD looks like, or should aspire to look like?
The IBD is really not recognized institute, and I think what's important is like also getting the next generation of brewers engaged. I think that's really important. I think a couple of years ago I attended the Young Scientist Symposium. I think the last one was in Bitburg, and since then it hasn't happened anymore. So I think this is one of such an important event for like young researcher or like people being new
Does
into
it
this
give people a
industry.
platform to be able to kind of present themselves and their work to the right?
100%, yeah, I think so. And also meeting each other. So I think it's such a great networking event. And your first stage into like our first step into being able to present into the brewing world. Because if your first stage is like the European Brewing Convention or I don't know, like Trends in Brewing, that's quite nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I completely agree, and there is a lot of support across the organisation for the Young Scientist Symposium. So definitely watch that space. I also think that the team up who the Scottish section where they put on the World Distilling Convention, they put a lot of effort into making sure that young scientists can come and present their work in a really accessible way, and I think that's just really super because it gives people a platform, it gives them a chance to kind of present themselves rather than, as you say, just right, you're the keynote speaker, off you go and what have you. And I also think that you raised a couple of really interesting points. That accessibility of the IBD to people who are at the early stages of their career is really important. And I think the IBD needs to be really good at providing professional educational content that is relevant to them in the role that they are doing. So it's not about one size fits all. It's about, okay, my educational needs or my development needs might be kind of particular to me, and we have to provide those in a way that people can find those within them and find themselves within that, and also see themselves within the organization as well. I think particularly with chartership. So chartership is about having that quality mark that is relevant across the kind of world. We've got to be very sure that chartership isn't presented as, oh, it's a very UK based thing and what have you. It's about having a fellowship of brewers and distillers and people in the industry who work to a particular level and continue to develop themselves within that. And so as a scientist, you must be at the forefront of lots of change within the industry. And what are those changes and how does the IBD need to keep up with those changes?
I mean, what you definitely see now everywhere. I've just been to a very interesting like event hosted by the BBPA, and it actually showed a lot of data on like the growing market of the low alcohol beer market, which is absolutely impressive because we still hear some of the brewers, some of our customers saying, "Oh no, we don't want to get into that because it's just a phase." But when you actually look at the data, there was something that's really struck me. It was that 30% of like customers actually left the pub or were unhappy because they didn't have enough low alcohol beers in that pub. So this is one of the things that's one of the key trends, and I think if brewers don't address that, then they're really missing out. And I've seen that the IBD is offering like short courses on this, so like just by addressing these trends and just offering the education behind it, I think that's really a step forward.
Yeah, and I think that is really important. And we have some really good people on the team who absolutely keep their eye out for those trends and what have you. But you're absolutely right. It can't just be, let's provide what we've done previously in a slightly better form. It has to be, okay, where is the industry going and how do we follow on for that, for, you know, whether it's in production or it's in other areas. And I know that the chair of the board of examiners is always thinking about, okay, what are the qualifications that the next and future generations are thinking about? And then from your perspective, either as a scientist or somebody who works within the industry, what do you think the big opportunities are for the IBD or to be the CIBD in the short future?
I mean, if we look into what's actually happening, not just in the brewing industry, but generally food and beverage industry, everyone has been struggling in the past years. COVID, all like the supply chain crisis, generally how like fragile the current situation in the world is. Like so many, especially small businesses, are struggling. So, but when we speak to brewers, we actually realize that they sometimes don't know like how much water they're using, how much energy they're using, what is their brew house efficiency, are they getting the most out of the raw materials. So they don't have like sometimes the capex to invest in more modern equipment to improve like everything in their brew house, but there could still be so much done in their brewery. And I think by educating them about specifically these numbers, what do the numbers mean? How can you improve your process? I think that
measurement and all of that stuff. So almost to build the science into the day-to-day process of brewing and distilling.
Yeah. How does the brewing process work, or the distilling process, and what could you do to improve this? And by that, even saving money, saving time. And I think particularly the smaller businesses can really profit from that.
And how might the IBD play a role in that? So I can see how, is that through conferences, or is that through short courses, or is that just through providing access to that network of experts? I think one of my favorite parts of being in the IBD is when you go to the section events, and there'll typically be a talk in a brewery or a distillery on a particular matter. But how do you kind of democratize that science so that people have got access to it?
I think nowadays the good thing is you can use multiple platforms. I mean, we brewers, we always like getting together and meeting for beer. So an in-person meeting is always a great thing, but not everyone has the time or even like can go across the country to a meeting or something. So if some of these meetings could also be broadcasted, like through a podcast or through like an online version of it, so people could even access it even if they can't make it to the meeting. So I think this would be a good way. Or same thing for short courses, but I think with just like spreading the news, because sometimes people don't even know what question to ask. So by kind of triggering it with offering such a short presentation, you're like, actually, I want to learn more about this.
And I think one of the things that we are thinking about is how do we open the IBD up to people who could answer those questions for people, or who could mentor people through a particular area. Because I think, the IBD's greatest strength is its network of people, and it's got incredible people who are all happy to help, or lots of them are happy to help. We just need to find a way of facilitating that. And so, we are thinking about new ways to kind of connect our members that take the travel out of it, so that people who've got a specific question or are doing something particular can share that with other people. And in terms of is there anything you'd like to see more of from the IBD as we transition into the CIBD, or are there any things that you think, the IBD, it would be brilliant if the IBD did more of that?
Well, it's a good question. I think more like the visibility of like what could the IBD offer, especially for like the next generation of scientists, brewers. So I think this could be a good thing. Just what can the IBD offer? And so we all know, okay, that would be interesting for me, or even just like career progression. I've seen a couple of articles in the journal, but I think this is definitely something that would be very interesting.
It's quite interesting what you say in terms of, and the transition to become the CIBD is a really good opportunity to do this. How do we make sure that people can see themselves within the organization, and that we cover the breadth of the organization? So whether I'm a non-technical person, I just need to get some background fundamentals into something, or I'm a scientist with a very particular interest, right? Okay, I can go to the journal and I can find that there. So, but presenting that kind of broad, relevant solution to people is certainly something that we've got to think about, because if we're not seen to be relevant, then we're not going to attract those kind of people who've just entered the industry as the kind of start there.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because I've seen it within our team as well. Obviously, maybe like procurement or like supply chain general, they don't need to know all the technical details, but they would benefit from like knowing parts of the brewing industry. And same for maybe an internal sales team, or so you don't need all the technical nitty-gritties behind it, but you just want to have a good overview so you're able to categorize things better.
Oh, perfect. Well, that's all kind of absolutely super. So, Celina, thank you very much. That's a really nice way to kind of finish. So, Celina, thank you very much for your time, and look forward to seeing you either online again or when I'm next up in the Midlands section. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye.